GM, everybody. I'm Harish. I'm a developer advocate at Gaia. And today I'm going to show you how all of you, together with me, can launch AI agents in about, let's say, 20 minutes. And we'll take questions at the end. And at any point, if you have questions, like Aubrey mentioned, drop them in the chat. We will have some time to take those during the session as well. But I'm going to walk you through what Gaia is very quickly. We'll also see a demo as well. And then also, let's go through the Collab Land AI Agent Starter Kit, which lets you launch AI agents on Telegram, Twitter. It's a very lightweight framework that all of you can use and is also mandatory to use for the Gaia and Collab Land bounty for the Agentic Ethereum hackathon. With that, let's get started. What is Gaia? Gaia is a decentralized computing infrastructure platform that is open source that lets anybody like you and me build, scale, deploy, and also monetize AI agents. Right? When you launch an AI agent with Gaia called Node in the Gaia terminology, what you get is a chat interface, and along with that, you also get an OpenAI-compatible API that you can pretty much replace in your existing applications or build applications using that API itself, right? For some of the examples that you can try are on our website itself. You can go to, let's go to AI agent domains, and then you can browse AI agents. These are some examples that you can try out and see how it works. Let's say we go to the chemistry one. Chemistry is an agent that is trained specifically on chemistry dataset. And yeah, what you see here is the model that this agent runs and also the system prompt. And I'll show you how to customize all of this, but this is the interface that you get when you also launch a node after through this workshop. I'm not going to do a presentation PPT. Let's do everything hands-on, yeah, with the time we have. And like I said, this is the UI that you get. You can click start and start interacting with your own node. And also you get a API endpoint, which is OpenAI compatible, which means you can essentially replace your node URL and start calling your node URL right after deploying. Right? Typically, depending on the model size, it may take about 10 minutes for any of you to launch an agent. So let's get into it. So the first step is let's install the Gaia CLI. For us to be able to do that, let's go to docs.gaianet.ai. If you're doing this along with me, it'll be amazing. You'll also learn while we do this. If not, you can always access the recording later, right? So if you go to docs.gaianet.ai, you can go to setting up your own node. This is where there are some prerequisites, minimum 16 GB RAM if you want to run a 8 billion parameter model, ideally. And if you want to run a smaller, or if you have a machine that is 8 GB RAM, or if you want to run an AI agent on a Raspberry Pi, I would recommend you pick a smaller model like 0.5 billion parameters or 1 billion parameters. If you run something like an 8 billion parameter model on a lower capacity machine, it will not run. It will slow down the entire machine. So keep that in mind. There are only 3 steps that you will need to launch your own node, which is an AI agent on Gaia. The first step is installing the CLI, right? Let's quickly install the CLI. This is my terminal. I'm going to install the CLI. This is the first step from setting up your own node section on the Gaia docs. And once the CLI is installed, you have to run this quick command, the source command for the GaiaNet CLI, to be able to access the CLI command in this terminal that I have open. What GaiaNet has under the hood is, if you go to our GitHub page, I'm going to drop the link to our GitHub where you can see the architecture details. I'm not going to go detail into the architecture, but with every node, what you essentially get is tool usage, function calling, an API server, an LLM, an embedding model, a vector database. By default, you have quadrant vector database in the node, and also a prompt manager, which is customizing the system prompt and the rack prompt for you to be able to fine tune your AI agents to suit the personality you're training it on, right? So once you install, what you also should notice is there is a node ID, which is a wallet address, right? So every node comes with a MetaMask wallet address, and the private key and the details of this wallet address is in the node id.json file. I'm going to show that very quickly after running this quick command so that you know how to access the wallet details in case you are building an AI agent to perform autonomous transactions on chain, right? So once we run the source command, don't forget to run this command. This is very crucial for the GaiaNet CLI to be available, which means if I want to run GaiaNet init or GaiaNet start, you have to run the source command. So the next step is GaiaNet init, which is initializing the default node. By default, when you install the node, at any point, if you feel this is rushed, drop your questions in the chat. I'm happy to slow down and explain, but we have a lot to cover. I'll try to be as high level as possible, but happy to answer any questions you have at any point. Right? When you install the CLI, right? GaiaNet init is the second command. By default, you get a Llama 3.2 3 billion parameter model along with a knowledge base about Paris, right? You can access multiple knowledge bases that we have on our Hugging Face account, right? You can go to huggingface.co slash, I'm going to drop the link to this as well in the chat for all of you to access. You can go here to access the default dataset, but if you go to our page on Hugging Face, you can also see all the models that we support. You can see DeepSeek R1 is also there that you can run locally on your machine. This one perfectly runs on a Raspberry Pi or even a MacBook Pro. And these are some of the data sets that we have built. There are developer docs, there are static text-based knowledge bases, there are code-based knowledge bases that you can also see that we have trained models on, including the chemistry one that I was talking to you earlier, right? So this is where you can find all the models and the data sets if you want to play around with customizing, right? So the second command, like I was getting to, is GaiaNet init, right? By default, you get this, but what if you don't want the 3.2 billion parameter model or the knowledge base? You can customize the second step itself. Now, how do you do that? You have to go to our GaiaNet GitHub page where there is a section called repositories. Also, feel free to drop any PRs for any of our repos. You should see a node configs repo. What we have done is created a repo where we have listed a lot of AI models, LLMs essentially, which you can just copy and initialize by default. These have the configs ready to go. For the sake of this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the Quen 2.5 coder 3 billion parameter model, right? Go into the folder, you will see the same commands. The first is the CLI, second is the init command, right? So instead of doing GaiaNet init, I'm going to do pass the config file itself so that by default, it now downloads the Quen 2.5 model. Like you can see, when you do init, it downloads the model itself. Depending on the internet speed, this should take the time it needs to download the model. Then it will also download the nomic embeddings model, right? What are embeddings? If you don't know what embeddings are, essentially in simple terminology, LLMs utilize embeddings as a way to extract information and weave a story, right? Embeddings are just words or phrases converted to numbers. For example, happy or joy are similar words, so they have similar numbers together, right? I've taken the liberty to make it too simple, but they are a little more complicated than that, but we will leave that definition for later. But embeddings are then stored in a vector database. Imagine a shelf with different boxes. Like I said, happy and joy are similar words, so they uh, sit in the same box, right? That's how vector databases make it easy to extract words quickly, right? And LLMs are just beautiful storytellers if you don't realize already. But yes, while this is happening, I can take any questions if you have. If not, we can still do it at the end. But that's how you initialize, right? The last step that we have is GaiaNet start, right? You can post the questions in the chat or we can do it later, no problem. How are you feeling so far? All good? You can react so that I know how you're feeling. If this is too rushed, apologies. We have a lot to cover. But I promise I'll take questions, or I'm always answering questions on the Discord channel as well. It's me. My user ID is HK space Gaia. So you can reach out to me on the Discord channel for Gaia Collab Land Bounty as well, in case you have questions or if you run into issues. Okay, Alex, right. The question is at a higher level, what is GaiaNet replacing? Like I'm not as familiar with GaiaNet. I think it's a great question. Gaia is your way to run AI agents locally. Today, what happens is you don't know how your data is being used with all the centralized uh, LLM providers like ChatGPT. But what Gaia brings to the table is everything runs on your machine. You can bring your own specialized knowledge base and create AI agents that are specifically fine-tuned to your data set and also behave in a certain way that you want the agent to behave, and you have full control over it. right? If you want to fine tune your model, you have full control of fine tuning it. Everything sits in the, like I said, in your machine itself, wherever you're running it, in your local machine or in a server if you're running it in a server. But yeah, you have full control over everything that you run through the node. I think that's the biggest differentiator of Gaia. Ollama, yes. What Ollama, the main difference between GaiaNet and Ollama, if I were to put it, is Gaia is decentralized, which means you've seen domains, right? If I go back to the node example that I was showing, if you are running a node, you can attach your node to a specific domain. And this is where decentralized inference comes into picture. Like I said, every node has a wallet address as well. And decentralized inference is if you are only running a node, right, you can attach it to a specific domain. And then you can also earn rewards for contributing to the network. And if for somebody like me, if I'm an agent developer, app developer, or an agent developer, for me to be able to consume your node or your domain for the inference, I'll be able to pay you, right? That's how you also make money and also contribute back to the inference itself. So those are some differentiators. Ollama lets you run local models, but Gaia is a step beyond that, where you get control over everything that you need to run an AI agent with customizable knowledge base and also generate embeddings through your agent itself. Yeah, that's how I would put it. Yes, I will get to how you can use GaiaNet with other platforms. No, actually, GaiaNet doesn't replace ELIZA or Coin CDP's agent kit. In fact, you can use Gaia as the LLM inference provider for both ELIZA or even PhiData or CDP's agent kit, and use it as the one that translates natural language into actions, which is where tool calling will come into picture. But let me quickly do GaiaNet start, right? The last command that you will need to be able to run your own node, right? So once you do GaiaNet start, what will happen is you will get, we've all seen the node address in the step one. What you will get is the node address attached to a domain that you can quickly use in your browser or the OpenAI-compatible API and start building applications. And one quick thing that I want to mention is if you see that your node stops after this step, that means either your machine is not capable of running that model or there is a problem in your config.json. I'll show you where the config.json is. But if it stops here, that's one thing that we've noticed in common, some of the errors that most of our developers face. But if you see all of this, then your node is perfectly working. Like you can see, this is the domain that we have. You can now simply open this in the browser and start interacting with it. That's how simple it is. What we have here is, like I said, a default model. Then there is the API itself. You can simply run this curl command and it'll respond. And this entirely is responding from my own machine. There is no internet access to this, right? This is from my machine. And now you can also do chat with this node and talk to the node directly from the browser. You should be able to see the node address here and the model, right? When you say start, you can also customize the system prompt here. This is the default system prompt. Like you can see, it is it is an intelligent programmer powered by Quen coder model, and it'll help answer questions related to coding. You can customize this based on the knowledge base. Let's say you are providing a knowledge base in Rust or Solidity. You can customize this saying you are an expert in Rust. Please respond to users' queries in the best possible manner. And yeah, you can play around with the system prompt and the rack prompt to get better responses. You can also tell how the LLM should respond, either in bullet points or essentially how the format you want, right? But if you want structured outputs, you should need a larger model, because in the smaller models, structured outputs and tool calling is not possible, right? You will need a bigger model, like a 32 billion parameter model, to get tool calling out of the box, right? That's how you spin up a node and use it, right? This is the API tutorial. Like I said, we called the API here. That's how you spin up a Gaia node, uh, all from our local machine. So now if I go back to my command line, I want to quickly show you where this sits. You can simply go to GaiaNet as the folder. Let me clear this for you to be able to see this better. If you go to GaiaNet folder, here is where all the files are. All right, let me expand this. These are all the files. Config.json is where everything sits, right? The LLM URL, the knowledge base URL, I'll show you that. But you should also remember that node ID JSON is where your unique node ID is sitting, and the device ID and node ID are both used to connect to the Gaia protocol. Now, how do you do that? Simply go to our docs and you should be able to see a join in the Gaia protocol. This is where you can come, go through the tutorial and contribute back to the decentralized inference that I was talking about earlier, right? This, you should keep this important if you are installing the node or reinstalling it if you don't want the address to change, right? Can Gaia nodes call external APIs like web search? That should be possible, but you will need tool calling enabled. Like I said, you will need a larger model for tool calling. But if you want to use tool calling specifically, let's say with the agent kit, I would recommend you use one of our public nodes. What we have also done is in the public node section on the left, uh, we are running some nodes that you can use for tool calling. Like we have a voice to text model, Whisper V2 large running on this domain. This is also OpenAI compatible. You can use this. And for specifically for tool calling, if you are using, let's say, agent kit, right? I would recommend you use llama.tool.us.gaianet.network as the base URL, right? I'm going to drop this in the chat for you, all of you to be able to remember this. But this one by default comes with tool calling, right? You should be able to use this and call any external API, right? Be it, let's say you've created a subgraph and you want to fetch some specific statistics from your own smart contract. You should be able to do that by using this one. By default, if you're running a model, it will not work, right? Especially the one that I showed you, it will not work, right? So this is the LLM. Like you can see, everything is here. There is no internet call by default, right? So if you delete this, your node will stop working. That's how simple it is. And let's also quickly see how you can use Collab Land AI in Starter Kit that lets you connect, first of all, your node that we just launched and run LLM inference. And I'm not going to deploy a Telegram bot in this example because we don't have that much time today. But I'm going to show you how to set up the environment variables and all of that in the AI Agent Starter Kit, right? So remember, using Gaia and also the AI Agent Starter Kit is mandatory for our bounty, right? We've also posted some examples of what you should build, but remember, these are not set in place. If you want to build something else, please do so, right? These are only some examples that I wanted to share through the bounty, but please go through all the bounties and also the additional prices that we have, right? The AI Agent Starter Kit from Collab Land link is available in the bounty page. I'm going to drop the link to this GitHub repo in the chat as well for all of you to use it, right? AI Agent Starter Kit is based on ELIZA originally, and this lets you launch AI agents in Twitter, Discord, Telegram, and also use lit protocol for lit actions where you can abstract away your wallet keys, private keys, and all of that, right? So please go through the repo. This is very extensive in terms of what all features there are. You will notice that once I start installing the CLI, right? So let me clone the AI Agent Starter Kit. I'm going to do git clone and run this. This should be very quick, very simple, very straightforward. Let me go into it. The first step that you need to do is obviously install the dependencies. And while the dependencies are being installed, you should be able to scroll down and see the project structure. Unlike ELIZA, there is a backend and a front end here. So there is a client and a server architecture. And these are all the environment variables that you have to set up when you are using the Collab Land AI Agent Starter Kit. I would recommend you get the Collab Land API key, and Gaia models are also available through these environment variables. I'm going to show you how to set them up in the environment variables file. You can also bring your ELIZA character if you have something already set up using ELIZA. And yes, like you can see, there is Twitter integration available. There is Discord integration. There is Jokeris integration. There is GitHub integration, all out of the box. All you have to do is set these parameters and it will start working. In fact, there is Orbis Studio also available in the integration. But yes, that's the agent kit. So build is done. Now let's see, the next step is to, I think, run this. Yes, pnpm run dev. When you do pnpm run dev on the AI Agent Starter Kit, it will start asking for all the environment variables, right? So you can set them right from here. Like you can see, there is the public URL. Sean is asking, does ASK support voice for agents? I haven't specifically tried ASK for voice. I don't think it supports, but please correct me if I'm wrong, if you're trying it out. But yeah, I haven't tried for voice yet. Like you can see, it'll start asking for all the environment variables, right? It'll not work because I'm not setting anything. I'm just showing you how to run this, right? So here is where you can set up the GaiaNet environment variables. But for the sake of this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the AI agent starter kit and open this in my code editor and show you the environment variables path, right? So the ENV example here is where you can add the Gaia details, right? This is how you do it. Now, how do you know which model you are using? Very simple. Once you get the domain URL, right? If you go to the domain URL that you got from the Gaia CLI, once you install, here is the model name. This is where you bring it from. Just copy this and paste it in the model URL. Sorry, GaiaNet underscore model. And then this is your server URL followed by v1. And then the embedding model is also mentioned here. By default, it is a nomic embedding model. And if you want to generate embeddings and use GaiaNet's embeddings, you can always set this to true. I would set it to true, but yes, this is where you add all the environment variables depending on where you are launching the agent. If you're launching the agent only on, let's say, Telegram, I would only add the Telegram bot token and then test it out, right? But you can always add the other parameters here. By default, this is the character JSON file. You can always update this to a specific character. Let's say you're training the agent on Vitalik's personality and his content that he puts out on the internet. You can customize this to behave like Vitalik, right? That's the character file. But yes, that's and of course, server is the backend for the AI agent starter kit. This is much more simpler and um, less in terms of the number of packages as compared to Eliza is what I would say for this one. But yes, this is an overview of how you can run AI agent starter kit plus Gaia node. So once you run Gaia node, just add them into the env file here and then pnpm run deb and you should be good to go, right? I would highly recommend you try both these out. And if you run into any issues, I am available on Discord, and with the rest of the time available, I'm happy to take any questions. If you've already tried both of these platforms, please let me know. And if you have any issues, I can help you answer. But my recommendation as an AI agent builder, if you are building an AI agent for the first time, is to pick a model that fits your use case, right? Llama 3.2 can fit into specific use cases. Similarly, if you are building an AI agent that writes code, right, I would highly recommend you use either Mistral's Codestrel or Quen 2.5, right? And if you want better accurate responses, you will need larger models. But if you want your model to do very specific tasks, then I would recommend using smaller language models, SLMs, like the one I showed you, where it is just a 3 billion parameter model. You can also use smaller ones if you're running it on a smaller machine. So you have to consider all of this before you run the AI agent itself, right? But do give it a shot and let me know if you run into any troubles. But if you have any questions, let's take them now. I hope the workshop was resourceful. You can drop an emoji as a response or in the chat also let me know if the workshop was helpful enough to get you all started. While we are getting some questions, or if you have any questions, there are a couple of resources I want to share in addition to our GitHub repo. What is your actual target audience with your tool? The actual target audience is for everybody to be able to build specialized agents. We don't want another ChatGPT alternative or something like ChatGPT where it is a jack of all trades. I think the future is highly specialized, customized agents and agent-to-agent interactions, right? Even for the bounty, when we say mother of all agents, it means imagine like a superhuman of agents, right? That can do multiple things by interacting with other agents, not by doing everything by itself. Can we use AI Agent Kit for just Next.js backend? Yes, you can use it like you want to. What is the Collab Land key used for? Collab Land is the one that created the AI Agent Starter Kit. We are partnering with them to run this. They are the ones who created all the integrations with Discord. They are the ones who are actively building the AI Agent Starter Kit and supporting more developers to build AI agents in a quick manner, right? If let's say if you want to use a public node with the AI Agent Starter Kit, should be able to do that, right? One of the resources that I wanted to quickly share is obviously on our docs.gainet.ai. You can go to the guides and tutorial section. We have some examples, including the CDP and how you can use Gaia node on ELIZA and also on CDP, and DeepSeek is also coming up very soon here. I'm just waiting for the PR to be accepted. But yes, docs.gainet.ai is where you can find this. We have a list of agent types and then what type of models work well for those. Uh, I think a great example for that would be to seeing the existing agents that we have and which models they're running on. If it is a generic agent that you want to respond in text, I would recommend using Llama 3.2 3 billion parameter or 8 billion parameter. For coding, like I said, Quen is a great example. And if you want reasoning, I think no question you can use DeepSeek, but run it locally, not using DeepSeek API because we don't know where that data is going. So run your a DeepSeek model locally. You can run that using the Distal Llama 8 billion parameter version. And yeah, you can find more of these demos and also some more examples, right? On my Twitter, I keep dropping some of these on my Twitter. You can go there and check some of those out. You can go to, this is my Twitter handle. You should be able to find a lot of these demos once you go to my right. This is the one. This is an npm package. Let's say you want to programmatically launch AI agents using JavaScript. You can do that using the npm package called Gaia deploy, right? That way you can spin up multiple nodes automatically. That's one way to do it. If you have any like PRs, you could also contribute there. I think it would be helpful to have a session where people pitch their project and then yes. So there are two sessions coming up this week where there is project pitch feedback sessions, I believe. That's what they are called. Please join them. I will be there. I will give you feedback and also one-on-one insights on how you can tweak the idea that you're building. I think that's a great way to get feedback. Thanks, Alex, for bringing that up. But yeah, this is where you can find many more examples that are still not on our docs. So do go check it out. What else did I want to share? Yeah, this is the one that shows how you can run DeepSeek R1 locally. But yeah, I can go on. I can share many more resources. But if you want more resources, I would recommend you ask me on our Discord channel, including any questions that you have if you run into any issues. But what I would say to end this off is building AI agents is simple, right? I think what is important is for you to define your use case better and use the right LLM and fine tune it to an extent where you're satisfied with how it responds, right? The key is always in chunking the data, segmenting it in the right format, and then giving that to the LLM as the knowledge base. You can go to our knowledge bases section to see how you can convert a text file, PDF file, a CSV file into embeddings. But remember, if you don't chunk your data and segment your data, your LLM will go all out and respond very randomly, which you wouldn't want, right? You would want it to respond properly, right? For tool calling, like I said, use the link that I shared specifically for tool calling. But yes, that's all I have for this demo.